from the state of Florida, understanding that a lot of the assets are being utilized in Texas for Harvey still, that the Red Cross is being utilized a lot in Texas as well. So we understand that we're dealing with that situation. So for today, the rest of our work will be to ask the state of Florida for resources, for shelter staffing assistance, to fill that gap that the Red Cross will not be able to fill for shelter manning, and to kind of finalize our planning. So we'll be doing that over the next 24 hours. We went to a level 2 activation at 1 o'clock today, which means we have a partial activation of the EOC with key personnel from planning, logistics, operations, recovery, and finance, and our communications team as well. And we're focusing on our messaging to the public. Some of that messaging is still being formulated, so I don't want to get ahead of that, but I do want to point out a few things. We do have the disaster planning guides for people to pick up at the libraries and other county buildings, so that if they haven't planned already, they need to start. There are 10 steps in there to help you plan. We realize a lot of people may not have taken the time over the last 3 or 4 months to plan for hurricane season, and they're just now putting together disaster kits, which is good on that respect, but at the same time, their supplies in the store are running low. So I'm sure that the retailers are trying to restock as quick as possible, but people need to take into consideration the needs of their family. As we get more information about the storm, we will be providing information about mandatory evacuations or voluntary evacuations, anticipated rainfall, anticipated storm surges, and things like that. And people will have a better idea of what they need to do. But they need to be thinking about that now. We ask people to talk to their family and develop a plan. If you live in a mobile home park, my manufactured home community or RV park, you really need to consider where you're going to go, because those are most likely going to be mandatory evacuation areas. They always are. You can go to one of the shelters that we open, but remember that the shelters that we open will be announced through the media. We have 22 facilities that we can utilize in the county, but we don't open them all. We don't have the manpower, we don't have the staffing to do that, and it was a very costly endeavor. However, if we have to, we will open as many as necessary with the support of the state of Florida, possibly the National Guard and additional Red Cross personnel and county staff. But the shelter next to your home or in your neighborhood may not be open. We don't open every school, so listen to the media for the ones that are open. Just because it's on the list does not mean it will be open for that particular storm, and there's a variety of reasons for that. But we're working with our school district partners to announce all that, and more information will be coming out tomorrow. As far as preparing people with special needs, those that are oxygen dependent, power dependent, we ask you to please register with emergency management throughout the year, and many people have done that, and we have your information and you will be contacted. There are people today coming to the EOC with forms, calling in, faxing in, last minute registrations, and that's okay. We want to make sure we capture everybody and we take care of you and get you to the right place. So continue to do that, but keep in mind that we want you to do this ahead of time in the future. You can't wait till a storm is coming to do things like that. Some people are inquiring about sandbags. We did have a rain event last week. We understand that. We provided sandbags for the public to utilize. So those of you that got them, please reuse them. And there's a challenge with sandbags, to be honest with you, because many of the sandbag suppliers sent them to Texas for Harvey. So we're working through all of our sources and assistance from the state to get more sandbags here. We do have some in the county, and we are planning to open 3 sites, the same sites we've been using, tomorrow. Today, please don't go to any of those sites. This is Tuesday. But tomorrow, we plan to open them. More information will be coming out on that. If we don't have sandbags, we want people to consider other options. Plastic bags, pillowcases, things like that, using mulch bags until we can get more sandbags to you. We're not sure how much rain we're going to get. It will depend on the storm. We're not sure how it's going to affect the area. And we realize we have people recovering in the Mayaca River area and throughout the county in areas that flooded. So we just ask people to plan, think about where you're going to go. If you can go to a friend or family member's house, do that. If we call for evacuations, if you can go to a hotel, make sure you do your research on that hotel, when it was built, where is it? Is it outside of a danger area? And if you go to one of our shelters, please bring your supplies. Bring your disaster kit. Bring your water. Bring your snacks. Bring your bedding. If you have a pet, go to the pet-friendly shelters. Bring the supplies for the pet. All those items can be found on our website and in the disaster planning guide. So we have several days before this storm will affect us. We may start seeing tropical storm force winds as early as Friday evening, and then progressively worse into Saturday depending on where the storm goes. So a lot more information to come out. Listen to your local media channels. 861-5000 is the contact center if you have non-emergency type questions. You can go to our website at www.scgov.net and also follow our social media pages. All Sarasota County Facebook, Twitter pages will be reflecting emergency information from this point on, run by our communications team. So more information to come. Please think about what you're going to do if we do have to face a worst case scenario. Not everybody has to evacuate. If you have a newer home, if you have in a subdivision where they provided you shutters, you have the new building code construction, you're not in a flood zone, you're not in a surge zone, get your supplies together and be prepared for possibly a loss of power, maybe a loss of water pressure for a short period of time, but you don't have to get on the road or go to evacuate. We want those to evacuate that we have under mandatory or that don't feel safe in their own home because they don't have shutters or their roof is in disrepair or something to that effect. Okay? So at this time, I take any questions that you might have.
And if you were to evacuate, what is the timing with the storm as it is now? What day is it that you get on the road?
Well, it depends on people's plans. If they want to go a longer distance, they should leave sooner than later. Like I said, the effects are going to begin Friday. After in the evening, we'll start getting tropical storm force winds based on the current track. And then rainfall will accompany that Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So the whole weekend is basically going to be continuously deteriorating weather. Keep in mind that many people are going to be on the road south of us from Collier, Lee, Charlotte, maybe even as far as Monroe and Miami-Dade counties, coming through I-75 looking for places to stay. When that happens, I-75 will become a parking lot. So you need to think about just everyday traffic, finding alternate routes to and from school or work. And if you are evacuating long distance, think about the other roads that we have. We have State Road 64, 62, 70, 72. Those all go east and they connect to northbound routes. So you can take those roads like 27 or 17 up into Lakeland and onto I-4 and to Orlando. So, you know, we have the capability these days of using our phones. We have GPS. We can find gas stations with a phone number and call them to see if they have fuel. But we want people to, you know, have fuel in their vehicle, take their supplies with them, think about where you're going to go, and do that planning. Talk about it with your family. If you have a job like a first responder, fire, police, hospital, emergency management like we do, we cannot bring our families to work. So I want all of those folks that have those jobs, anybody who's going to be working during the storm, to make sure your family is safe. Keep in mind we have shelters available and we can support that. Any other?
You live in Sarasota. Where should you evacuate to?
Well, all you have to do is go tens of miles, not hundreds of miles. The key to surviving hurricane impacts, the emergency managers like to say, run from the water, hide from the wind. And what that means is get away from the storm surge inundation zones like you see on the map we have. If we're evacuating zones A and B, that's all the orange and all the red. Get out of those areas. Don't go to, get out of flood zones, get out of mobile homes, and go to a safe building, friend or family's house, hotel, or one of our shelters as we announce them and open them up. And you can get situated and be safe from the storm. You don't have to go hundreds of miles away. Many people will need to do that or feel like they want to do that, but it's not necessary as long as you get into a safe building and you can protect yourself from the wind and rain of a tropical system, and then most importantly, the storm surge.
Do you expect most of the resources that were sent over to Harvey to be returned or either replenished?
Not necessarily returned, but the state is aware of that. They're working with FEMA. We heard on the call today that the FEMA administrator has spoken to our state director. The FEMA administrator has spoken to the president. They understand that we have a dire situation with that storm in the south, and they're going to try to find resources from other states that weren't impacted. So resources as far as California and as far north as North Dakota, South Dakota may be called upon. The American Red Cross is doing the same. So we are going to deal with what we have. You know, emergencies start at the local level. We're fortunate to have a lot of capability here, but we will be needing state and federal resources. The National Guard will probably be a resource utilized as well. The governor's already signed an executive order allowing them to be utilized. The county's residents will notice this afternoon, sometime this evening, Sarasota County will declare a local state of emergency. And that doesn't necessarily mean the emergency is upon us immediately, but it means we can now use some of those administrative functions under an emergency clause to purchase things, to get resources in place, and to open that up. The counties around us will be doing the same thing. I'll be talking to all the county directors in a regional call that they've scheduled to find out what the timing is in Manatee and Charlotte and so forth, and sharing resources with them. So we're fortunate we have a lot of partners in this community and in the state.
Has the previous rain that we've had this past month, I mean, is that making the situation especially dangerous?
Well, it's making it a little bit more difficult because all of the retention ponds and waterways, rivers are at capacity. Some of them are at flood stage, and they're running out. They're slowly clearing up, but any additional water could cause those problems again. So that's a good point. We want people that if it does begin to rain again, to stay off the roads as much as possible. Don't drive through flooded areas, and just be aware that those conditions could exist. We've already notified the folks that live in the Mayaca River area, and we're going to notify them again. And an important point is Code Red. When we were out there last week, we noticed a lot of the residents on the river were not registered for Code Red, or whatever system your county has. Sarasota County has Code Red. You can go to scgov.net. At the bottom of the home page, there's a little pulse-looking symbol in a circle, like a heartbeat. Click on that, register for Code Red. That's the only way you're going to get the telephone notifications from us about evacuations and flooding and those types of things. So we ask a lot of people to do that. Get registered so we can notify you.
Should people be conserving water at this point? Because I know they were doing that during the flooding, and just to kind of lessen the burden.
That's a good point as well. Our water treatment facilities can become overburdened and start overflowing if too many people are utilizing water unnecessarily, and the rainfall on top of that. Our systems are okay right now, but that could happen if we got a heavy rain. So if we do get those heavy rains, please minimize the use of unnecessary toilet flushing, the washer and dryer, dishwasher, car washing, things like that. Try to minimize the water usage to that end.
So you're going to evacuate, and you go and evacuate to a hotel. How do you know that the hotel is not going to eventually just kick you out too and close the hotel?
That's a question that people need to ask. When you call, if you're going to go to a hotel, you need to make your reservations obviously in advance and ask those questions. What year was the hotel built? Are you in a mandatory evacuation zone? What services are you going to provide to your customers that are there? Will you have staff? Do you have a restaurant? Will it be open? Those are questions that you as a consumer have the right to ask that hotel if you're planning to stay there. And if you're planning to stay in a hotel and you discover that the charge per night is 3 times what it should be or 2 times what it should be, and you don't think that's right, there's a hotline you can call. The Attorney General's office has already put out the message that gouging will not be tolerated on supplies or hotel rooms or gasoline. So if you have concerns about that, notify them. And you can find that number probably on the website for the State Attorney General's office. Also, people that have prescription medications, because the state is going to be under this threat, part of that executive order allows pharmacists to give you additional supply of medication. So don't wait till the last minute. Talk to your pharmacist, talk to your doctor, get that medication so you'll have it to get you through the period of the storm. Anyone who has home health care providers should be talking to them about oxygen or other supplies that they might need. People on dialysis, there's a process to get their dialysis treatments ahead of the storm's arrival. Those types of things need to be happening. Assisted living facilities, nursing homes, those types of communities are required by law to have a plan that we reviewed that gives them the plan to evacuate or shelter in place or provide for their residents. Do not shift your residents out of your facilities to one of our shelters or our PSN program. You need to have those plans in place. If you get in trouble, emergency management wants to know so that we can assist you. But you need to execute the plan that you have written for transportation, sister facility that can support your people, and not just shove them off onto emergency management. Please do not do that. We have a lot of people that we're going to take care of. The people with special needs will be notified 72 hours before we plan to evacuate them, to let them know the possibility exists. 48 hours before, we will contact them and let them know that we are evacuating and find out if they need our assistance or tell them where to go if they can drive. And then 24 hours prior, we will be transporting them. Those that can't drive themselves, wheelchair bound, whatever, we have the ability to do that utilizing our fire rescue assets, SCAT, and the school bus transportation system. It's a big partnership, but we need the citizens' help to do that. We need their cooperation. And if you need to register, please do. If you can stay home because you're in a safe area, your home is safe, stay home. There's no need to panic. We will get through these storms. This is not Harvey. Harvey was a storm that got stuck between two high-pressure ridges in the middle of Texas and couldn't go anywhere and became a tropical system that dropped a lot of rain. This is probably going to be a fast-moving, large hurricane zipping up the coast or up the state. It's going to drop rain. It's going to do destructive wind forces, but it's not a Harvey. All these storms have their own personality. But if you run from the water, hide from the wind, have a plan, have a kit, prepare yourself and your family, you will be fine. Okay? We will continue to provide information. Our Facebook page is probably the best place to find things, but we will provide information to you, the media, whenever our PIO will give you my availability or the availability of the other officials here, but I may not be able to get to you all the time. Please don't call my cell phone because I probably won't be able to answer it. Contact 861-5000 if you have a need, or better yet, if you're in the media, contact our PIO at 861-NEWS. Any other questions?
There are a lot of neighborhoods in Sarasota County that are prone to flooding because the drains get blocked. Are county officials out looking at that now, and is there a place that residents can call to if they have a question or concern?
Yes, if they find that their drain is blocked and needs to be cleared, contact the county at 861-5000, so utilities will be notified. But our utility and stormwater crews are out there. They are checking those systems. They are making sure that all the hot spots that were indicated last time are being looked at and cleared. Our stormwater system did a great job in most cases, but there are some areas that still need improvement. There are some areas that become overwhelmed quickly with heavy rainfall like we got, and also when it's high tide. If Harvey had not happened, our story here of rainfall would have been historical nationwide news. But because of Harvey, which we can't even compare to, you don't hear about that. The people in Texas are in for a long recovery. We hope that nothing like that happens here, but we have to face the facts that this storm is coming. It's far out still. We have a long time to wait, but we have a lot of time to get things in order. Okay? Anything else? Thank you very much for sharing this information with our public.
Thank you guys.